Welcome to the AFL Talk. Sam,
Matt.
let's see what's on the AFL Talk agenda. It's been a very entertaining week in the footy world. We obviously had the Geelong Cats demolish the Sydney Swans by 81 points at the MCG, with Isaac Smith taking home the Norm Smith medal. We had the really incredible pre-game entertainment with Robbie Williams singing incredible songs, but also he was singing to Shane Warne as one of his last songs.
Yeah, it was just great. And John Farman. Correct.
We've seen obviously a bit of dishearten in the Sydney Swans, and also we've got the trade period coming up next week. But we'll talk about that next
time.
Next time. But yeah, what's your first crack for the match between Geelong and Sydney?
Dangerfield. He's just the Brisbane Lions match was just crazy, and then to do that again against the Sydney Swans, he arguably could have took the Norm Smith, but Smith played really well as well. But he just played so well. 19 contested possessions, 27 disposals. It was just a crazy game, and yeah, so Dangerfield obviously winning best finals player. No, best
Gary Ayres award.
Yep. For the final series, and it's just crazy how good he is. So yeah.
But the thing with Dangerfield is it's not just 27, disposals that are not too impactful, but the way he explodes out of the stoppage.
The 27 disposals, about 20 of them are actually really good disposals, just running a long distance. He's faster than most players in the league.
His power,
his first step's insane.
His power to explode from the stoppage, his brute and strength to just ride bumps and still manage to get kicks and handballs off. Yeah. And also he also had 6 goal assists, which is one of the second most.
I think 7 was the most or something.
Yeah, second most goal assists in is it AFL Grand Final history or AFL history in general?
I think it might even be AFL history in general.
And that's just bizarre because
it's just crazy. He's the second last person to be touching it.
And that's in the Grand Final.
Yeah, it's just crazy. He's a star.
Well, for my Monday hero, or my first crack, best player. I guess it was Isaac Smith, 32 disposals and 3 goals, obviously, and every single goal. Those 2 goals in the first
they were
quarter,
so important.
They were so crucial for Geelong just to settle and also start build a lead from there. But I guess I could have him because he definitely deserved the Norm Smith medal. But I'm gonna go with I guess Joel Selwood. I know everyone's spoken a lot about Joel Selwood in the media and if he's going to retire, but his first quarter, 12 disposals.
I know, he just really set the tone.
He really did set the tone for them. I'm not sure how many contested possessions it was, but he had a stellar first quarter. He had that one mistake where he did kick it back.
Across the goal, and it's just they didn't end up scoring, but after that, he was just insane. 26 disposals and a goal. Obviously, the goal was so important to him and his family. And
also, it was great to see that the whole Geelong team got around him, and we're all because he was really emotional after he kicked that goal, and that was great to see.
My doomsday, which is Tom McCartan. I'm sorry, but he just didn't play well. Arguably his worst game, and he literally in the patch in the third quarter, he costed them the game. He literally turned it over to Brad Close, goal, turned it over, kept on turning it over, only getting 9 disposals, about 4 of them were turnovers. He just did terrible.
Yeah, he got caught
holding the ball. Mitch Duncan
kicked the goal. Basically directly a few minutes out from the start of the third
Tom
quarter.
Hawkins just dominated him.
Tom Hawkins, I think they should have definitely just switched the matchup because Tom Hawkins was just way too strong.
Yeah, but who would go in him? Maybe Paddy McCartan.
Paddy McCartan's an intercept defender, but he was literally nothing.
Paddy McCartan, John Longmire just couldn't find a role for him. I think in the back line, he didn't know who to go on because he doesn't like going. At first, he went on Brad Close, but Brad Close pushed him up, got really high up the ground, and Paddy McCartan doesn't like that. So, so they just couldn't find a role. I think they eventually put him forward. He kicked a goal, but he just didn't have a good game, Paddy McCartan, or neither of the brothers had a good game.
I guess Robbie Fox, he was their best defender, but
Yeah, he went on Jeremy Cameron.
He did a good job. Jeremy Cameron did kick 2 goals in the last quarter, I believe.
late, and he did a good job.
But
Got like a few, quite a bit of disposals.
like the one time Tom McCann did take an intercept mark, he basically turned the ball over straight to Brad Close,
Yeah.
who snapped and kicked a goal afterwards. It definitely would be a game to forget for Tom McCann.
And Paddy McCann, the brothers
Yeah.
just didn't
Especially
play well.
Tom.
Yeah, especially
Because
Tom.
Paddy McCann did go forward late and he kicked a goal.
Paddy McCann didn't do
Getting a
anything
free
wrong,
kick.
but he didn't do anything good. The
So
last
it's really
time,
just a...
in round 2, the last time they versed him, he got 7 intercept marks. Even though Brad Close, who he was on,
He got
got
4
4 goals in that match, he got 7 intercept marks. So at least he had a role to play for the team. But that match in the grand final, he just didn't have a role to play. He was just sometimes just caught in like no man's land when Brad Close pushed really high up the ground, and he just didn't like that at all. So they ended up switching him to forward, and he kicked a goal.
The game planned by Chris Scott was really superb, actually.
It was a masterclass with Chris Scott.
My doomsday will be Isaac Heaney. Basically, it was poor from him because he couldn't really get into the game at the start of the game. At the start of the match, he had 3 disposals to half time and a goal. He did kick a goal like late, but he was really nothing to Sydney. He's an all-Australian. He's one of the most impactful players on the team, but also it's not great by obviously also John Longmire. He's got to just get Isaac Heaney into the middle of the ground, get him in a centre bounce quite, like, I guess not straight away, but like if the game's done to get away from you, as Geelong kicking goals and like
That's what they'll
the ball was living in their forward 50, then John Longmire has to coordinate with his team.
I'm pretty surprised they didn't do that because a few times in the season, they were really struggling, Sydney. Maybe in the first half, and they put him in the midfield, and he had a presence. It's just great.
Because he's one of their most skilled players. So he might not be the greatest with the hard ball, but he can play as like more of an outside mid, get into the game, and then basically they'll build his confidence. And then if the ball does come into their forward line later, then he'll obviously be in the game and start playing
sometimes
better,
they put him in the ruck. Even just put him in the ruck, just get him involved.
Get him moving, or get him doing something. Because he's an all-Australian player. He's a great player.
I mean, let's just talk about Buddy Franklin. 5 disposals, 0 goals.
His opponent scored more goals than him. Jack
Henry was.
Oh yeah, but then De Koning wasn't on a bit.
Mostly Jack Henry. Jack Henry did a fantastic job. It was a masterclass by Chris Scott, obviously. So Robbie Fox just guarded Tom Stewart, but Tom Stewart still played well.
Robbie Fox, no, he was on Jeremy Cameron.
Oh, I mean, Ryan Clark, the forward, just guarded Tom Stewart. He still ended up playing well, Tom Stewart, but he didn't get into that mark, I don't think. And what's called, so Stanley would take the centre half forward, which
would be
freed up
Reed, and then we'd free up De Koning, so then De Koning could play as more of an intercept player.
And
Jack Henry would still remain on Buddy, but then he would really just stop Buddy.
Yeah, exactly. It would be De Koning or Zach Tui. Sometimes it would be Zach Tui would go in front of Buddy, so then they just shut down Buddy in a masterclass.
The thing is with that Geelong defence is we did talk. I think the whole AFL media or analysis did talk about Stanley moving to centre half back after a centre bounce. Blitzers would take the ruck. Stanley would go to the tall on centre half forward, the centre half forward tall, and then they would free up Stewart. But really, with Geelong's game plan, Stewart is so good. He's the best defender in the competition. Yeah. But with it doesn't really matter in Geelong's system who is free because they're all great aerial presence and intercept players.
Yeah, it's just
so it would just free up Tui or free up De Koning or whatever.
I think
De Koning played a stellar game.
Yeah, I think it was De Koning. Oh my god, he played
what
well.
What a year he's had.
First quarter, he just dominated.
He did one bad kick, but he took about 2 intercept marks, I think it was.
Yeah, and a few spoils. He was just amazing. And for
he hardly got beaten
for a young player
per each contest or one-on-one.
For a young player to do that, he is going to be a star.
He's got a great future.
A lot of people say Geelong doesn't have a good future because they're old, but they've got De Koning, they've got Max Holmes, who's actually the number 1 rated wingman in the league, Max Holmes.
Since round 9.
And he's actually a contested possession wingman.
They've also got Stengel, who everyone knows how great of a year he's had from basically the bad boy to a superstar.
Yeah.
All-Australian.
Eddie Betts has taught Tyson Stengel so well. It's just crazy.
They've also got so I guess Myers is quite young. They've got Brad Close. They've got Zach Guthrie. They've got
Tom Atkins is pretty young, I think.
Partfit's like middle age.
Yeah,
kind of.
even Short's like 29, but that's still 5 years in.
He did get
him.
drafted 5 years ago.
That's another 5 years in American.
Yeah.
Like, that's still good. Like
another 4 years of dominance.
If we have deconing, Jack Henry's young.
We are Geelong fans.
Deconing, Jack Henry and Stewart.
We are neutral. Had to have neutral opinions for this.
But yeah, we are Geelong
video.
fans. If we have them, and if we have those three, we're not going to be a bad team. We're always going to make the 8 if we've got those 3 players: Jack Henry, DeConing, and Stewart. Like such a good backline, and Chris Scott's an amazing coach. Chris Scott,
I know how he gets criticised.
Yeah, I know. Like you can't criticise him anymore. He's either arguably the best coach or the second best coach behind Craig McRae. Either them two are just like, yeah. He's just a masterpiece.
But it was great for Chris Scott to now silence the doubters because everyone was criticising him in 2011 when he just took over Geelong as head coach, and then they won a premiership his first year. But he is such an important coach, and he deserves the credit more than he gets, really.
And the way he just blew everything up, just like changed his game plan, not to kick Mark, just like moving forward. It's just crazy. Like that's such courageous by him. Just like, blowing up his game plan for something that's worked for a decade.
Okay.
To actually get them over the line.
So what's next for the Sydney Swans?
Well, teams that get smashed, in a grand final are actually statistically so much worse the next year. But Sydney Swans would know that. They would eventually they would, just maybe this motivates them, I'm not sure. But it's just not good by Sydney.
They've got a young team. They've got Chad Warner played very well.
Chad Warner is actually a highlight for Sydney. 2 goals, 29 disposals.
He was like the third highest rated player on the ground, supposedly, with AFL fantasy points. He played an impactful game. He did get a lot of the disposals and goals in the last quarter when the game was done, but he's still showing great signs.
He was the only player
that was actually trying new things and taking the game on.
He was the only player that was running through everyone, trying to take a game on, trying move the ball fastly.
There was one play, I believe it was in the third quarter. I might be wrong here. We can't show the footage of it, but he had the ball on the wing. He kicked it to he got the ball handballed to someone. Then he handballed it back to Reed. He got the ball, then ran up the field, took a bounce, and kicked it to Callum Mills. Actually, that was second quarter.
Second quarter when Callum Mills got that.
At least he was trying new things, and he was I guess the only one of the few Sydney players that deserves to. That is allowed to have their head high with where they perform, but obviously
he's a future star.
He was very disappointed.
Yeah,
but also Robbie Fox, he did play a very good game on Cameron, but also 26 disposals. He was very crucial for their game. Oh no, sorry, it's 26 disposals. Yeah, but yeah, basically for Sydney, with that stat. A lot of those teams I feel like were falling off, after they got destroyed, smashed in the grand final. But they've got great future that they've got a great young core that's going to get experience in this grand final, so they can hopefully come back better than ever next season.
I feel like they will, because they're young, so I don't think they'll drop off. I feel like most grand final teams, when they lose the grand final, they try and do outsmart the system. Like Adelaide Crows, when they did that camp, they tried to get them motivated. But what they did, Adelaide, in 2018 was they traded a bunch of players. They did a mini rebuild kind of thing. Even though they lost the grand final, they got smashed, and they did this camp that literally it was just
didn't help the players whatsoever.
It was they did a camp and everyone hated it because
But why is that though?
I think they tried to motivate them to have a better year in 2018, but what they did was just make them not enjoy footy. They did this camp, and I think one of the things they did was that it was just torture. They tried to kept on running with the Richmond song blaring out. They're I think they were attached to a tree, and all the other players had to say bad things about them. And Eddie Betts said that after the camp, Eddie Betts said that he just didn't enjoy it. He just didn't enjoy playing footy after that, and it was a really terrible moment. So I think Sydney will learn that they'll try not to outsmart it. They'll just try and we made it to the grand final. We did get smashed, but Geelong's a great team. We just need to come out better.
Do you reckon they will? Because sometimes in grand finals, if a team gets smashed, they want to just not watch the footage.
No, they will watch the footage. They will.
But sometimes it's really disheartening because you're watching an appalling game.
No, but they kind of.
They have to because they're going to learn what they're going to do for next season.
They have to do that.
Prepare for it.
Because if it shows in the footage that they weren't running enough, but they didn't watch the footage, what about next grand final? They just need to.
The thing is
learn.
So let's say Luke Parker. He had the 23 disposals. He was okay, not the greatest, but
he went on Dangerfield.
He went on Dangerfield. He's their best contested player. Right now, I guess Josh Kennedy. Well, he's retired, but so Luke Parker is their best contested player, and he just didn't really want the ball at times. So for a player like that, and every single other player on the team, apart from people like Robbie Fox and Chow, who we were talking about them before, it's going to be a really bad or hard to watch VOD of the match for them because
I feel
there's just a lot. There's I feel nothing went right for them.
I was confused when Dangerfield had an amazing first half and they didn't put Callum Mills on Dangerfield.
Because it worked in round 2.
In round 2, Callum Mills went on Dangerfield and shut him up. He only had 12 disposals.
13 disposals.
Yeah, I know. That's just I don't know why they didn't.
One of Dangerfield's worst games. Oh, Dangerfield's worst game of the season, most probably.
Probably career, I would even say. Maybe it went early on in his career, worse. But Luke, obviously Dangerfield is just crazy in his contested ball work, 2019 contested possessions. But I feel like Luke Parker wanted the ball, but Dangerfield out-wanted the ball, if you know what I mean.
He was more hungry for the ball.
He was more hungry for the ball.
There was one play, I believe, in the first quarter. The ball was, so it was centre bounce, and the ball was moving a little bit forward to the Geelong end, let's say 5 metres. But then Tom Papple was right next to the ball, but Dangerfield got on his knees, grabbed the ball, and got the handball out to Reece Stanley.
A few times.
His will on the game, to get the ball, was outmatched by anyone on the field, and no player on Sydney or even Geelong wanted the ball more than him, and it was just great to
he still had 10 contested possessions, Luke Parker, which is all right. But Dangerfield got 19, and if those were the matchups, that would say to Luke Parker that he needed to try more, and he needed just.
But also, Dangerfield is a lot bigger, so his body size and the way he's built and plays the game is more. It helps him. It helps him more for contested ball and things like that.
So obviously, after the match, the Sydney Swans, John Longmire and the coaching staff realised that shouldn't have played Sam Reid. But once again, it was a great by Chris Scott to actually recognise. Turns out Max Holmes ticked all the boxes, but he recognised that it was too much of a risk. Max Holmes was about 99%. Chris Scott needed Max Holmes to be 100%. So even though Max Holmes ticked all the box, it was too much at risk, so they didn't play him. But Sam Reid, he was
gone by half time, really.
It was just once again, just a John Longmire at the end of the game.
A little bit at the start of the third quarter.
John Longmire at the end of the game realised that he made a mistake putting Sam Reid on.
Which was, yes, of course, great coaching by Chris Scott.
Yeah.
Once again. But let's talk about, Geelong's, I guess, ball movement and what they're good at. They are, basically, so about 8 weeks ago, they were the number 1 team for scoring off turnovers and defending the turnover. And also many other statistics that we can't bring up right now. But basically, that's what made them 8 weeks ago the favourite to win the flag, because they were also the number 1 team in the competition, ladder-wise as well.
Yeah.
But then they've carried it all the way through, and they've literally been done against Brisbane last week. I think to full time, they scored 6 points to 3/4 time, they scored 6 points off turnover Brisbane, and to 60 of Geelong. That is remarkable, and that 6 points basically came at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
That was nearly AFL record. But it happened again. Geelong, their defense is so well set up. They defend the turnovers incredibly well, but also when they get the turnovers, they just go. They're not gonna basically like last year and previous years get the ball to kick mark to mark game style. They get the ball. And they give out handballs and they try and break open the game going through the corridor and then move it to their forwards, which have got the best three of the best forwards in the league. So why not do that? And there's many instances like in the first half when the game was actually on the line. So I'm going to say first quarter. Geelong got the ball. So Sydney kicked the ball inside to their 50 and then it got spoiled. Geelong would maintain the ball. I think it went to Garo and then to Myers. Myers, instead of just bombing the ball, their ball movement is incredible. He did a really short kick, really classy kick to Brad Close, who marked it at about the edge of the square, going in favour of Sydney's half. And then he gave the ball straight to Myers, and then they broke open the game. I think it got to Cam Guthrie, and they broke open the game from there. Nearly got to Cameron. Nearly kicked
it was great by Chris Scott. Before the match, he just recognised, okay, what's Sydney's best thing? Like, what are they the best at? Pressure. How do we stop Sydney's pressure? Because there's a stat showing that Geelong 5 and 4, maybe
when pressure's below 180.
No, when pressure's above 180, they're 5 and 4.
Oh, yeah,
when they're below, they haven't lost a match.
They're 15-0, I think.
Yeah. So Chris got recognised. Okay, so Sydney is the best pressure side. How do we not stop them to do that? What they did is they actually kick to kick, but old Geelong would kick backwards. They would try and kick to kick, but keep on moving forward.
And not really doing many handballs at times.
It's like It's like impossible for Sydney to put on pressure if they would just do it kick to kick. So they kicked moving forward, and then at half time they would move fast and get it inside 50 with Hawkins and Cameron. It was just a masterpiece by Chris Scott. It's just amazing.
And also the team. But also, on the other side of that, Geelong defended Sydney's ball movement remarkably well. So Sydney is the number one pressure team in the competition, but Geelong literally gave them their own medicine and amped up their pressure dearly a lot.
Yeah.
Their pressure, so every single time Sydney would try and get the ball and move the ball forward, Geelong would be swimming with like the likes of Brad Close, Myers, their smaller forwards going up the ground, but also like obviously their wingmans and midfielders also applying amazing pressure. But there's an instance where I believe it's in the second quarter. Yeah, second quarter. It does turn out to be a goal for Sydney, but Sydney, so they tried to go straight, try and handle their way through the corridor of the ground.
And then Rowan Stengel just kept on going at them.
They kept on going and kept soaring with them, and it nearly forced a turnover in the middle of the ground. But then
Robbie Fox,
I believe, was it?
Ducked for a high tackle.
Ducked for a high tackle. And then they ended up getting a goal of it. But their pressure was enormous, Geelong, and Sydney were rattled, really.
Yeah.
From the opening bounce.
So, Joel Selwood, do you reckon it's his last game?
Well, I mean, the media was like, kept on asking him questions like
this. It's just annoying. Like,
exactly.
Like, why would you ask questions? Like, it's grand final week.
It makes it seem like the media wants Joel Selwood to retire.
But it's grand final week. Just ask questions about the grand final, not about him retiring. But there was a few instances where I think like it looked like Joel Selwood might retire when he kicked that goal. He just put his hand on his head, like acting like it was his last game.
But that was a more emotional part. But like basically, in the finals, he's played incredibly well.
What do you do?
Sorry about that. But at the early on the season, when he's like he hasn't, he looks like he's showing signs of aging a bit and playing worse.
Yeah.
But he's actually in the final series he's really stepped up and played like old Joe, and it's really his call, really.
Yeah, it was just like heartbreaking when he, gave his boots to that little kid. What's his name again?
I'm not sure.
I forgot his name. He's always on it because he's Nab Auskick of the... Archie.
Yeah.
And also...
How could you not love Joel Selwood?
And also when he got the team water boy, who's
Yeah.
got Down syndrome, he just got him on the
And he told him
pitch.
to take a photo with it was Jeremy Cameron's premiership medal, but it was Joel Selwood's idea, which was
It
very
was just amazing,
thoughtful of him.
and you could just see how happy he was, the water boy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Basically, I think that's going to be the end of the episode today. We might see you next week.
Depends how
We'll
many
try
views
and
you get.
do some more videos next year. Talking about Geelong and just other teams in general. Good games.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed. Hope you liked our opinions on the match for the grand final, and I think we do know a lot about the AFL, so we're confident in what
So
we
if you'd like to subscribe,
think. So yeah, please subscribe and
yep.
see ya.